I know what it's like to be misunderstood, to feel like I don't belong in the only place I've known. I've left my old life behind and given myself a second chance, but not everyone is so lucky. When the world feels dark, sometimes the only thing you can do is that thing in front of you your heart is screaming about. We have hopped on a ferry here in Washington State, and we're about to change our lives forever with what's on the other side.
Yep.
One night, when the world was feeling particularly dark, I read a story about a wolf chained to a tire in the desert who had been waiting 500 days for his second chance. So we drove 3,000 miles to see if he would want a second chance with us. Maybe acts like this seem futile, but maybe this is the light that we need in the world right now. It's never too late to do a good thing. My growing little family has arrived back home safely in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. Yeah, that's the camera. You're gonna learn about YouTube, my guy. But truth be told, we have been back here in Colorado for about a month, just adjusting and making sure that this guy was willing to accept us as his family and that we were able to provide him the pretty unique care that this guy is going to require. And I can happily and wholeheartedly say that we are 100% foster failing. This guy is officially a part of the family. The papers have been signed. He has, oh yeah, you want some scratches? He has accepted us as his family, which we are so grateful for. He has been looking for adoption placement for 1.5 years now. It's been really challenging to place him. You all know that I have fostered dogs before. I fostered dogs before I had a YouTube channel, but then you all saw that I fostered Koji about over a year ago now. Really wanted to be his forever home. But now I'm just his auntie. He lives up the street in a house that is totally perfect for him. And now it all makes sense because this guy was needing a place here. This video is actually made possible in conjunction with Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center. I am actually going and doing an interview with them and chatting with them in just a couple minutes. So stick around for that. So, with that being said, if it's not obvious, this sweet boy is a wolf hybrid. I am sure that you have seen some really large accounts of a lot of wolf dogs, wolf hybrids on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. That are garnering so much views and so much attention. Frankly, they're making a lot of money online. I have really learned so much about the dangers of that. And if I am being completely honest, I was not sure if I was going to share his rescue story and if I was going to share his pedigree of being a wolf hybrid, because the role social media has played in these animals' abuse. And I really want to do this the responsible way. I am so grateful for Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center to be enthusiastically inviting me to come visit so that I can hear and you can hear directly from the experts about what these animals are going through. I'm going to share a little bit about this sweet boy's story first. We're going to go to the sanctuary. Then when we come back, I will do a big name reveal, share more about his DNA results, and we'll go from there. So settle in. This is going to be a good one. It all started in March of 2023. Crux Adoptions, which is the rescue group I got this sweet boy from, they got a call to support Lake Tahoe Wolf Rescue. A woman had called them saying she had six large dogs she needed to surrender. So Crux Adoptions went out to the site, which was in the middle of the Oregon desert. The site was just a double wide trailer with lots of trash outside. So this sweet boy, whose name was Brad at the time, and his brother Abe, they were chained outside to two very large tires. And for the first 3 years of their entire lives, that is all they knew. They never got off the chain. The woman didn't even have the key to the lock around their necks. The rescue group had to cut these massive chains so that they could be free. They didn't have any fur around their neck because the chain had just rubbed it raw. And it then became pretty clear that there was some sort of potential abuse that had been happening from a man. This girl, Brad, I'm just gonna keep calling him Brad because that was his name at the time. Brad had a lot of anxiety and distrust, specifically around men, and specifically around men who were holding any sort of object. So we think perhaps there was a man that visited the property that was pretty abusive to him, or perhaps some neighborhood kids would mess with him because he was on a chain. He couldn't go anywhere, he couldn't defend himself, so he was pretty vulnerable. Crux Adoption was able to rescue Brad and his brother Abe and his sister and a Pyrenees that was also on the property. They were able to adopt out his sister and the Pyrenees, and then they kept Abe and Brad for a year and a half, investing so much time, energy, and resources to socialize these dogs, because these dogs were completely antisocial. They had never had a relationship with a person other than really just being fed. So they were completely antisocial, really not wanting to trust anybody. They had never ever walked on a leash before, so they were kind of terrors on the leash. They were just acting like wild animals, in part because their DNA was talking to them, and two, because they had never been given the chance to properly socialize and know how to feel safe and know how to interact with humans in the human world. I give so much credit to Crux Adoptions. They are a grassroots organization that are doing so much for these animals, and they are completely overwhelmed with dogs. They are constantly trying to rescue more, constantly trying to educate people and adopt them out to appropriate homes. So if it's on your heart to donate to a good rescue, that information is down below. Can I help you? Can I help you? Hello? Hi. When I heard how long this dog was up for adoption, it kind of blew my mind because he's absolutely beautiful. So I asked Mara, the founder of Crux Adoptions, what was going on there. She said that it is very, very common for dogs like this guy who have some type of wolfy pedigree to reject a lot of people. It takes a really, really long time to get them to a place where they want to be social with people, and sometimes they never get there. And on the flip side, Mara said that she had so many people she had to turn away because she is overwhelmed with adopters who want to adopt these dogs for all the wrong reasons. They try to adopt these animals anyway, and they can sometimes be sneaky about it because they simply want to have a wolf hybrid as a pet. People think it's really cool to have a wild animal under your control or by your side. And social media is really fueling that fire. She says it's also really hard to promote the adoption of these animals while simultaneously telling people that these animals shouldn't exist. I don't want to just speak on that myself. I thought I would go to the experts. I am on my way to Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Sanctuary. They are an organization, a nonprofit organization that is really leading the charge in wolf rehabilitation, wolf protection, and education on wolf hybrids. So I thought, who better to talk to and to get the inside scoop of what's really going on with these animals than Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Sanctuary. So let's go. So I have made it here to Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center, and Michelle has very kindly offered to have a little chat to share a bit more about what these dogs are going through.
Well, my name's Michelle. I've been a volunteer here at the Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center for 12 years, and currently I am the offsite education coordinator. So these are actually our 2 offsite ambassadors. So this here is Fox and this is Shia. So whenever we have somebody who wants us to come visit them, these are the ones that we typically bring.
First things first, I know a lot of people get confused of like the differences between wolves and dogs.
Yes. Scientists continually kind of go back and forth on whether or not dogs are fully domesticated gray wolves and a descendant from gray wolves themselves, or if they are from a common ancestor. So it flip-flops back and forth all the time. Very, very closely related. Over 99% of their DNA is still shared, so they can still interbreed and produce fertile offspring. So that's how we get a lot of wolf dogs. Fox here, she is what's called a low-content wolf dog. So that means she is less than half wolf. So she's only about 25%, and so that means she's going to have a lot more doggy traits and a lot more doggy behaviors, which is why she is cuddling with you. Shia over here, he is a mid-content wolf dog.
Got it.
So mid-contents are usually like almost equal parts wolf and dog. So he's about 60% wolf.
Oh wow,
and,
okay, yep.
So a little bit more on the mid-content side, and then there's high contents.
Okay.
And a high-content wolf dog, there's always going to be debate on what is considered a high content, but there's going to be something that has a lot more wolf in it than dog. So usually 80% and above is where people consider them to be truly high content.
Okay.
And that's when you're going to get a lot more of those intense behaviors that you might see in wolves. One of the biggest things that you're going to see is called winter wolf syndrome. Coming into like January, February is when breeding season starts. Even if you have them spayed or neutered, their hormones can still really increase and they can get a little bit more aggressive. Somebody I knew who was even a mid-content, but he ended up becoming so aggressive to her in the winter times that she didn't even be able to interact with him.
Wow.
So we don't really see that with a lot of our wolves here. They are all very well socialized. However, we still do get some of those more intense behavior.
At just certain times of the year, they act more aggressively simply because their hormones are changing. It has nothing to do with like how much they care for the people around them. It is simply their biology working.
It is. That's something that a lot of people aren't used to coming from a fully domesticated dog. They have extremely high prey drive, which can be very difficult for the average person to manage. It's not something you can train out of them. That's just the way their genetics are. You bring up a really good point about kids. Even if they're the friendliest dog in the world, you know, all it takes is a baby to start crying. We do a lot of educational programs. So they see kids all the time, but when we have babies and toddlers on our programs, I always have them sit in the back row because I can see the way they start looking at them is not in a way I like.
One thing that I've noticed, he tends to be a bit more antisocial. Like a lot of dogs gravitate towards people as like, oh, you're a resource, whether that's food or pets or just attention. Is that pretty common in hybrids?
It is. So what you're kind of discussing kind of goes along with something called neophobia.
Neophobia.
So it's the fear of new things.
Okay.
And just like you said, typically when we think of a dog, we're thinking of somebody who wants to be our best friend all the time. They want to go everywhere with us. They want to be at our side all the time. Wolf dogs, on the other hand, maybe not Fox, because again, she's a low content. And you can see she came right over to you. Like, hi, you're a person. But as you start getting up in your content levels, you're going to have more and more of that neophobia. Shia is a rescue. If I wanted to go walk around downtown and sit at an outdoor restaurant, he's not going to want to do that. There's too many people, especially if we are sitting still. And people are standing up. Standing up is a very threatening position. And especially wolf dogs, because then you're over them, they think you are coming after them. If you've ever visited us, we do those interactive tours, and you might come in and you sit down on the ground with our wolves because you're at their level and they're a lot more comfortable.
Can you talk a little bit about why all of a sudden wolf hybrids seem to be being bred at a much faster pace and why these dogs are constantly being put down? Can you just like talk about what the heck is going on and the ethics surrounding breeding these animals?
Sure. So there's a lot going on with wolf dogs right now. Originally, back in the 1960s and 70s, people started breeding wolf dogs on fur farms. So they were breeding them to create a more handleable wolf.
For their fur.
For the fur. Unfortunately, people saw that and they go, hey, we could sell this as a pet. An estimated 250,000 wolf dogs in backyards in the United States today.
250,000?
250,000.
Wow.
And more are born every single year. And there's a lot of problems with this for a lot of different reasons. And like you mentioned, a lot get euthanized. It's estimated that 80% of wolf dogs need to be rescued or they are put down before their third birthday.
80% need to be rescued or put down before their third birthday.
And part of the reason why is because at the magical age of 2 is when wolves and wolf dogs will reach maturity. And so you might have, let's say, a mid content or a high content that for the first year and a half has been really friendly and social, outgoing, and wants to do all those fun things that you want to do. And then they hit 2 and they start to get scared of all those new things or even familiar things. So we have a lot of our wolves here, they're socialized, they walk on a leash, they hit 2 years old, and all of a sudden they're like, I have never seen a leash in my life, and they will not go on walks anymore. It's really sad. But again, that's something that people aren't prepared for.
Right.
And then they get destructive. So whereas dogs might be growing out of that destructive phase at 2,
they're growing into it.
Wolf dogs cannot be adopted out by shelters. That's one of the reasons why they have such a high euthanasia rate is anytime an animal ends up in a shelter and it's called a wolf dog, they're not going to do a DNA test. They're just going to euthanize.
Oh my gosh.
So,
and now is that in all states?
In all states.
So not just the illegal states.
So any of your like city shelters, private shelters,
Right.
they cannot adopt them out to the public. And
Got it.
part of the reason why is because even though wolf dogs do get the rabies vaccine, it's not legally recognized for them. So they have to go to a rescue or a sanctuary like ours.
Got it.
But every single rescue and sanctuary is full. Of course, I mentioned that Shia was picked up as a stray.
Okay.
However, I do know where he came from.
Oh boy.
So if anybody was familiar, in 2020, there was a Netflix documentary that came out. I'm not going to name the name.
Oh,
but it had to
no
do with
way.
some big cats. So Shia, unfortunately, he was born at this roadside zoo. They were just selling them to whoever wants them. So when you have people who are breeding them irresponsibly and selling them to whoever wants them, that's what's leading to all of these animals ending up in rescue.
Why are these dogs so popular? Why are people buying them, breeding them? Is it because it's mostly ego? People think they just look cool? Is that really the catch?
There's both. So
Okay.
there's a lot of ego behind it. People
Okay.
think that having a wild animal is cool. You have
Right.
power over this wild creature. Another really big thing that started years ago, and I think it's kind of snowballed, is the Game of Thrones show. Back when that show was very popular,
Yes.
they saw a rise of over 700% of northern breeds ending up in shelters in general. Get them thinking that they are going to look like a wolf but act like a dog, which is not what happens. Unfortunately, it's just a lot of ego driven and this fantasy that people have that just doesn't come true. The wolf dog problem is not just limited here to the United States. It is everywhere.
And it's becoming a massive industry.
It
so
is.
People are just making a lot of money off of it. And then
That's mostly
80% of these dogs are either being rehomed or put down.
Yep.
It is unethical then to be breeding these animals.
We feel it is.
Okay.
And the main reason why is because there's just not enough qualified homes for them.
Right.
So, like I said, a lot of people get them and then they realize how challenging they are and there's no place for them to go.
Right.
Whereas if you can't handle your domestic dog, there's a lot more resources.
Totally.
There's a lot more places that they can go.
Right.
Wolf dogs, there's not.
Right.
And like I said, every shelter, every sanctuary is full. So for every breeder out there who might do a home screening like you're talking about with your rescue, and they are really challenging and they make sure people have containment and they have experience and knowledge and are ready for all the challenges that come with it. When you have, let's say, one breeder who does that, there's 25 more
Who
are
don't.
not. Another thing that I haven't really talked about is misrepresentation.
Misrepresentation.
Just kind of talking a little bit about social media and how it can
Yeah.
fuel a lot of people into getting these animals.
Yes.
A couple years ago, there was a person who lives here in Colorado. He has this really famous dog called, I won't say who it is.
Oh, he's here in Colorado.
Very low content animal.
Okay.
And over the years, that person had been first saying he was a high content. We found him in the wild. There's like so many weird things.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I don't want to like.
We're not shaming individual people, but just talking about the
It's
influence
just
of social media
social
on these
media
animals.
and just misrepresentation in general. So somebody might have a dog who has no wolf in him at all, or a fox who's a low content, and they're being misrepresented as higher wolf
Higher
than they
content.
are.
Yeah.
So maybe the next person says, "Oh, well, that dog was 80% wolf, and he was a great pet." And then they go out and they buy something that's 80% wolf, and it actually is.
Right.
And then they're like, "Well, why the heck is my dog so different from this one?" And you see this a lot on social media.
Yeah.
And it's not just big accounts; it's little accounts, and
Yeah.
it's all over the place.
Yeah.
There's also people who might sell the opposite too. who might be selling wolf dogs under a different name, and they're selling to illegal areas. One of the big ones is Blue Bay Shepherds. They look like German Shepherds. I mean, they're beautiful dogs. Yeah. But they do have wolf content in them. And the states that they're illegal in, if you were to do a DNA test at the shelter, they're going to get put down.
They're marketing these animals as shepherds just so that they can legally be selling them in illegal areas.
Yes. Some breeders are very upfront and they'll tell you, yeah, this dog has wolf content, but there's a lot who don't, and they will sell them to illegal areas.
We're putting them in situations where they struggle. If they have problematic behaviors, but they're just being themselves, we're putting these animals in a space where they're not going to ever feel completely fulfilled or not get the opportunity to because there's just not enough resources. Doing them wrong by not offering them what they truly deserve.
Here, we really believe that wildlife belongs in the wild. So if you love wolves, love them from afar, support the wild wolves.
Any other ways people can support and be a part of the solution for these animals?
So adopt, don't shop. So if you are you've just fallen in love with wolf dogs, you really, really want one, like I said, 80% of them end up in rescue. There are wolf dog rescues all over the United States. Lots of animals out there who are needing homes, qualified homes. Educate yourself. Like I said, I've worked here for 4 years and then I still had major challenges bringing him home. The thing that we really want is to just help the wolves in the wild.
Right.
So if you're not sure what wolves in the wild are facing, there's always the possibility that they're going to be permanently taken off the endangered species list. Unfortunately, there are bills that are being put through, like the Trust the Science Act, which has no science behind it at all, which would take wolves off the Endangered Species Act throughout the United States permanently with no chance for them to go back on. Talk to people about coexistence. There's lots of different ways we can coexist with wild wolves, which can be a challenge depending on your background. Agriculture has a lot of challenges with it.
Sure.
But there are ways for us to coexist with wolves. And part of what we are really supporting here is the Wolf Coexistence Fund. So it is there to help support agriculture so that we can coexist with wolves. It keeps the animals safe, both wild and domestic. It's just to be a voice and share what you learn with your friends, your family, and the most important thing is to talk to each other.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what side you're on, if you love wolves or hate wolves. What we really need is just everybody to come in the middle so we can all have our steak and we can have our wolves.
How can people support Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center?
Yeah, so we have a lot of different ways that you can donate to us. Open year round, we are a fully nonprofit organization, so anytime you visit us, you buy something in the store, all of that helps support us. So
Amazing.
We also have donations. We have our PayPal on our website, which is wolfeducation.org.
Thank you so much for taking the time just to talk to me and talk to my friends. We are officially back from Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center. I am currently doing some positive reinforcement training with this guy right now because Ben is up in the attic making some weird, scary noises. Talk about that neophobia. This guy is very scared of anything new. So if you just see me giving him a treat unprompted, it is because there was a noise and we're just doing some positive reinforcement training. Rio's just getting one because she's Rio. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed going to the center, but now it is time for a name reveal. Go ahead and put your last minute guesses down below. Ben and I thought long and hard about his name, and we are very excited to announce that this sweet guy's name is Kenai. Kenai means black bear, and it also means the safe flat land next to a river. And since we have our very own Rio, which means river, the name just felt perfect. Now, in regards to his DNA, his brother, Abe, got his DNA done, so we know for sure that he is a hybrid. We went ahead and did our own DNA test, and it is currently in the lab right now. So if you want to put your guesses as to what kind of wolf Kenai is and the other breeds that are in his pedigree, he is not 100% wolf, go ahead and drop those in the comments below. I'm currently on the fence of whether or not I'll be sharing the percentage of wolf that he is, just because of what I learned today at the Wildlife Center, but I will 100% be sharing the results of what is in his pedigree. He's your family member now too. You're going to be seeing plenty of both of these pups around, and I'm really excited to share his recovery story. Some of the behaviors that Kenai has been exhibiting are massive neophobia. He acted a little bit more like Shia. Good job, buddy. So he acted a little bit more like Shia, very resistant to new people touching him, and is slowly starting to warm up. So it seems like we're going to be able to build a lot more trust, and hopefully we can get him to the point where he is pretty comfortable to accepting pets from people that he knows. I'm the only person right now who's really allowed to just approach him and pet him. Ben is doing amazing work. Ben is just the best man to expose Kenai to. He is just so gently strong, and Ben is such a safe person. He's the kindest man I know. Just showing him that men can be safe. Good job, buddy. Yeah. Is Ben in the ceiling right now? That's an upcoming video. Rio is doing an amazing job with boosting Kenai's confidence as well, because she is not scared of anything. This is my confidence queen right here. Kenai gets to watch Rio not be worried about it, which is really helping Kenai come out of his shell. I really think that this sweet boy is really going to be able to come out of his shell. It's going to be a lot of work. It already has been, but we are up for the challenge. So also, if you have a rescue pup of your own, feel free to share a bit about their rescue story down in the comments. I just love reading those stories. And be sure to make a donation to either Crux Pet Adoptions or Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center if it's on your heart to support and protect animals like Kenai. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a really good week. I hope you take care of yourself this week. I love you, and I'll see you next week for an exciting renovation video. As you can tell with Ben being in the ceiling, we've got a lot of exciting things happening around here. So I love you. I'll see you soon. Sweet babies, what are you doing? Oh my, what?
Oh, that's with my hands.
Yeah.
No.